Hi, Sam. For most of the evening, it's been kind of a love fest up there. You guys have been agreeing on a lot of things, so I'd like to interject a little bit of discord on the subject of religion. Andrew, you and I share a friend, Rod Dreher. I went to high school with him. In his recent book, The Benedict Option, I agree with actually a lot of his critiques of current society, and they're shared by many of you on the stage. But I think that his prescription is he's actually advocating theocracy. And right now we have a large Christian coalition that's now even Mormons are considered Christians. But eventually, if the Christians take power, that will fracture again, and he and his Orthodox friends will be looking at you as a gay Catholic and saying, you got to go. So my question is, how would you articulate your differences with Rod other than, say, on sexual politics?
I love the modern world. He hates it. And that's one fundamental disagreement. I also believe that the truth about the world, whether that be a metaphysical truth or a real truth, endures and is not going to be destroyed by a changing society. That if your faith is real and deep, it's not going to be affected by the broader world around you. It will endure, and it may have to be re-understood, and it may have to be reimagined. There's a certain language involved in Christian orthodoxy that I think is obscuring what Christianity is really saying. The ways in which the underlying message of the Gospels is still so important and so liberating as a way of life has become lost in this insistence on orthodoxy and on everything that has always ever been, even though it hasn't always ever been this way. I mean, I think that orthodoxy is to religion what ideology is to politics, and that real politics and real religion happens when you leave those behind and you experience the world and you experience your faith in a powerful way. And that also means, if you are a Christian, the lack of any desire to force anybody to behave or to do things or to believe things that they don't want to do themselves. That is, to me, crucial. And the idea that we can police the world into believing in certain things and use the power of government or law to enforce it is evil. Evil. Now the question is, how do you reinvent it and reimagine it? And that's something I've been wrestling with for many years in my own life and attempting to do intellectually, and that's what I'm writing a book on. I'm trying to reimagine what Christianity could be today. A Christianity that's not afraid of the modern world, but sees every human being as a creation of God and worth loving. These are Jesus was a very simple preacher, and just it's the way. It's not necessarily the orthodoxy, and that's what I would say. And yeah, but theocracy is always there. It always will be. But so is ideology, and so are other ways of coercing people to do what they don't want to do.
Here's something I worry about with religion in the age of Trump. If you were writing about American society in the later 1990s, what you would see is America has a religious experience completely unlike that of all the other developed countries. In most countries, very low levels of belief and observance. In America, at least very high levels of belief, if not necessarily of observance. In the 21st century, the proportion of Americans who profess no religious belief skyrocketed. I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but when you would hear people in the 2000s say that Islam is the fastest growing religion in America, that was only because they did not count no religion as a religion. If you did, that was by far the fastest growing. And when you look at those numbers, you would say, so what's happening here? Is something changing, or what was it always true? And people are bringing their stated beliefs into line with their actual beliefs. A lot of people who would be vaguely religious or felt it was an important thing to do, but who actually were not religious at all, were now saying, I've been driven away from it. And so to your question about these strong statements of orthodoxy and the increasing alignment of evangelical religion with Donald Trump, the least Christian president of the United States ever.
He's a pagan.
I worry that America is in danger of going through sort of a very radical and rapid de-Christianization, where a lot of people who are loosely Christian are going to say, I want no part of it. And societies, just as they need work, just part of this, and family, part of the structure of meaning for most people is participation in a religious community, which is maybe even more important than religious belief to having a fulfilling life. And that's being lost day by day. You're seeing this de-affiliation. It frightens me. And part of it is the extreme demands that are being made and religious teachings that are not where people are. But I don't think there may be people here who welcome this disaffiliation. I find it a deeply ominous and worrying development. And it's one of the things that makes Donald Trump very people like him possible, because it leaves people more alone.
I want to agree with that. And insofar as Christianity has now become another tribal identity associated with one political party, it has completely destroyed itself, destroyed its credibility, and destroyed its integrity. And that has happened. I also think that the community aspect is vital. I do think that some of the pathologies we're seeing in our society, the isolation, the feeling that if you're not forever having an increasing standard of living, your life does not have meaning. The opioid epidemic is in some ways a search for some meaning, and in the absence of it, an attempt to make yourself feel better without it. And I wish, Sam, that...
I'm ready. I've had 10 years to prepare for this one since our last debate.
I just wish people did not so easily express contempt for people who have meaning in their lives that is related to their own metaphysical understanding of the world, and attempt to live that in community with each other. And I think treating anybody who is genuinely seeking the truth with contempt is counterproductive and wrong.
Well, let me respond. I take it as the implication that you think I have done that or do that, and what I do, I'll grant you, can sometimes be mistaken for that, but it's not in fact what I do. I treat certain ideas with contempt because I think they're both patently false and incredibly harmful. So they're like, when that combination when ideas combine in that way, then I get very worried and impatient. But I completely agree with both of you that there is a crisis of meaning at the center of all of our lives, and we were born into this world in a circumstance that is, in some ways, starkly hostile to the fulfillment of our desires. And we have very few tools to navigate in this space that are appropriate to our circumstance. And the tools need to continually be improved in light of all of the gains we make ethically and politically and intellectually, scientifically. The reason why will always be opposed to religious dogmatism, and what I mean by, or any dogmatism, but in this case religious, is that it is the parts of the human conversation that are inflexible to change. They're non-negotiable. They're not revisable. They're not editable. And that is the wrong software program for us to be running right now. And to use a metaphor that will one day show its age. So I completely agree with you that we want to maximize the feeling of love and connection, and we want community, and we want the institutions that maximize the possibility of community. And I'll grant you that religion is that for some people some time, but it comes with this massive downside of this legacy code that is causing people to make delusional claims where good claims are available, and when it causes them to be good. When it does cause someone like Martin Luther King Jr. to be good and heroic, well, there are better reasons to be good and heroic than to believe that the Bible is the Word of God and that Jesus is His Son, right? So we can find better reasons. But the common project of finding meaning in the present moment.
Why are these better reasons rather than different reasons?
Well, because they're reasons that are truly defensible. You don't have to believe any bullshit to have them.
But you rarely express contempt for religious people.
Well, but please, I am not expressing contempt for you at all. You are someone who I love to talk to.
I'm an anti-dogmatist. I am. But I don't think human life can be founded entirely on reason. I don't. I think most of it should be. But I think at some point you
before I
have to
misunderstand
see...
you, let me just translate that back into my language, because when you say it can't be founded entirely on reason, I will grant you that in the sense that there's more to life than understanding the world. There's more to life than not being wrong about in your propositional claims to knowledge. So love is not just being reasonable, and community is not just being reasonable, and having fun is not just being reasonable. But none of those projects require that we be wrong to pursue them, or that we lie to ourselves to pursue them, or that we be unscientific. You don't have to be irrational to fall in love, or to have fun, or to get what you want out of life. So that's the crucial conflation.
I don't think you think, well, maybe this is, I don't want to prevent other people to speak, but I think of myself as a reasonably rational person, but there are some things that are beyond reason. And if people seek to understand those or seek to experience those in a manner that human beings have always done from the beginning of time, then I'm not going to treat them with contempt. I'm going to value their experience, I'm going to value the truths, and I'm going to value the way of life that may come out of it. And that goes for a huge majority of Christians, it goes for a huge majority of Muslims, it goes for a huge majority of many people of faith. And that's an integral part of what it means to be human, I think.
But if I told you that we had a time machine here and we could fast forward 100 years and discovered that humanity outgrows its religious provincialism at some point, so that there's no longer, we outgrow nationalism, we outgrow racism, obviously, we outgrow other forms of tribalism, and we outgrow this, so that spiritual people no longer call themselves Christian or Muslim or Jew, and we just talk about the fact that we have consciousness and we have conversation, and it gets better and better, and we've learned to pay attention to the present moment in ways that are truly validating of everything you want, the juice in the religion. But there are no more labels.
Christians are doing that than you give them credit for.
One sentence on this, not to prolong this again, but spirituality is part of the human brain. People will always be spiritual. That's just the way we're organized. Will there always be people who will voluntarily go clean bedpans of the sick? And
do you think those people are mostly religious now and doing it for religious reasons?
Over the long span of human history, the thing that has sent people to sacrifice for others has been not spirituality, but religious community. And maybe people will find other ways to do it, but maybe they won't. And maybe you don't need it.
But just look at an organization like Médecins Sans Frontières, right? It's an explicitly secular group that's right next to a religious group, but they're doing it for different reasons. And I mean, clearly you can find in our common humanity a reason to alleviate human suffering.
And I think as we, again, not to extend this, but as we confront the society we confront, you can, but don't be so confident that you will.
Well, I just think we must, because we'll keep paying the price for our dogmatism. But so, yeah.
I would just, if you could have Jeff Hawkins on the podcast.
Okay, thank you. He's been suggested before.